Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another installment of Retro Reviews by your mistress of ceremony, Lady Nyca Child. We are doing Dynasty circa 1980s. This is season 1, episode 8, entitled Krystle's Lie. I'm sorry I haven't been back on the YouTube streets with another one of these old nasty piece of episode reviews. But as I promised you, Jay Ray, I was gonna make it happen. Okay. So I hope that you enjoyed the review. The next episode will be dropping Saturday in a premiere, okay? Because I don't work on weekends. And remember, we are doing a video a day for every day in the month of March. So let's get on into this episode review before I lose all sense of control. This has been very tasking to my spirit, so I want to get it over with, okay? So on this episode, Blake and Krystle arrive home. They done been out to a party. And Blake is he in a tizzy, girl. He in a tizzy because he done learned at this party that Matthew has received monies from somewhere for him and I forgot that dude's name, but we'll get him on the next rip. Him and his partner to open up, to restart their rig. He thought he had put a boot in there and they weren't going to be able to open up their business. But in fact, he has received some monies and they are now back in business, okay? And he on that phone calling every one of his friends, questioning them down. He's telling them he wants to know who gave Matthew and that drunkard, which would be his partner, the monies they needed to restart their oil business. Now, he accusing his friends at the same time asking questions, right? And Krystle is just reminding him when he hangs up that those are your friends. They wouldn't do that. And he told her, he said, if the roles were reversed, I'd do the same thing to them. So what she needs to know is that's how they get down. It's deep and dangerous in the oil game. And he wanted her to understand, girl, even though I'm pissed off to the T and I ain't feeling none of this, if the roles were reversed and I had to do it to them, I would gladly do it, okay? He notices that she's sitting there, that she's trembling, and he asks her what's going on, and she blames it on her being a bit cool and the fact she don't like seeing him that way. Now, he hit her with this one. He said, in this cold, burnt out world, you are the only person that I am most comfortable with. Krystle is accepted of that, but she nervous because Krystle know everything ain't as good between them as they assume. And during that conversation, they discuss his children and his aspirations to have a child with her. And he said that the first time he had a son, which was Stephen, Alexis wanted to call him Blake, but for some reason he wanted to name the child after her father. But he tells Krystle, girl, this time when we have our child that you're going to give me, we're going to call him Blake. Even wonders if Stephen somehow felt that or knew that he didn't want him to be named after him. Okay. So let's go over to Matthew and Claudia's house. Claudia's home trying to be Susan homemaker to Matthew per usual. And she mentions to him at the dinner table that she wants the job. She wants a job. In fact, she's looking for a job. And to him, see, men back in them days, they ain't really want the wife to do no working. He told her, he said, our finances is not bad. In fact, they're better. And she said, I know, but I still want to work. And I still can be at home in the afternoons to care for our daughter, Lindsay. I'll work while she's in school. So I'm home in the evening to make sure that I do my motherly duties with her. He's still not all right with that. Because he don't want folks to think that he can't care for his family. And she explains, it's not about you, Matthew. It's not about you. Nobody's going to think that you don't have what it takes to take this family through rough times or even when we're doing well. Everybody know that you're going to be able to do what you need to do for your family. She said, but I already didn't attend college. And that's where we learned that apparently Claudia and Matthew was messing around in their teen years, and she got pregnant at 16. And he did the right thing by marrying her. But by marrying her and her having their baby, it stopped a lot of her life, meaning she never went to college. So at least she wants to do is get out here in the world and at least make her mark. Even if it's minute, she wants to do something that she enjoys and something simply for her. Now, Lindsay, their daughter, overhears this. And she begins to get upset about it, but she don't show that she's upset. She just bypasses breakfast with them and says she has to go to school and rushes out the door. Now, when Matt get to work that morning, down to the rig, things have been going well, but there is a slight problem that has come up. And one of his workers tells him that the rig is not quite working right. So he goes and inspects and he finds this screw. And when he saw that loose screw, things began to take shape for him. He now understands that his rigs were in fact sabotaged, and he think he know who did it. So we see him head over to the local bar where one of his drillers, Ed, is hanging out. And Matt asked him, so you're not at work today? He said he's just taking a break. But he's over there at the bar drinking and playing pool and things of that nature. Then he asked Matt about how he came up with the money to get the rigs back working, to start operations back up. And of course, Matt ain't going to tell him. So Matt tells him, I think that Stephen Carrington was set up and that my rigs were sabotaged. Ed says that, you mean the old sissy? Because remember, this is circa 1980s. Homosexuality did not have the meaning today that it had back then. Back then, it still was looked upon and frowned upon as a bad thing. So he's telling him, the old sister. Matt said, well, after he beat his entire ass, he tells him, I'd rather have a sissy for a friend than opposed to a coward and a snake. And after that ass whooping down to that damn bar, Ed admits that Blake Harrington hired him to sabotage the rigs and to pin it on his son. Matt tell him, I better not see you nowhere, no how. Matt heads over to see Blake. He tells him that he was wrong and that was very unethical to try to sabotage his business and set up his own son. How could you? How dare you? Blake said Matt said Blake operates under the old oil tycoon era. But see, this new era, this new genre of oil, up and coming oil tycoons, possibly, they don't act that way. They have some morals when it comes to business. Matt said Blake was a big disappointment to him because at one time he held him in high regard. Blake said Matt is sensitive. He's hot-headed. And the only reason why he does not still hold him in high regard is because he feels some kind of way about him marrying Krystle. He said, one thing I can say is you're honest. So let me give you a question. He said, look me in my eye and tell me that you don't spend every night wishing and thinking about Krystle. And if you can tell me that, I'll call my dogs off. And honest Matt, just stood there. Blake gave him an old nasty look and smirk as he continued to sip on his expensive brandy. Child. Now over at back at the big Carrollton's mansion, Fallon is being super nosy, child. The maid is on her way upstairs to give Stephen a telegram. She tells the maid she's gonna go actually back upstairs and she'll take it to him. She got the thing up in the air, child. She is sitting up there trying to look through it and see if she can read it through the envelope when Stephen comes along and she has to give it to him. She's talking about, well, I thought maybe it was something from Jeff because Jeff is currently out of the country working on some oil rigs, and she's just saying that that's what she's looking for. And Jeff, for those of you who may be new to this, please watch the other episodes because it's going to bless you and you'll know exactly what's going on, okay? But he said, no, I know who this is from. And she said, well, you're not going to open it? He said, not right now. He walked out. So their helper was trying to be nosy. So once Lindsay gets to school, remember she left the house early, upset with her parents. Once she gets to school, she done went and looked at some information and ended up going down to the county clerk office. She back at school. Her and her good Judy Tanya is talking about normal teenage things, but Lindsay is snapping on her because she's upset. When her friend asked her, why are you so upset? What's going on? Because she's just crying and turning out red. She said, I'm going to tell you something, and I don't care if you tell anybody else. She said, I went down to the county clerk's office to look up my parents' marriage, and I realized that my parents got married because my mother was pregnant with me. And see, back then, that would be a cause of alarm. Back then, there were still certain things called virtue, family values, morals, things of that nature. Those things still had meaning in the family. And for her to find out she's the product of a teen pregnancy, and it's because her mother got pregnant, she ended up having to drop out of school and have her and her dad married them. That was upsetting to her. Now, Tanya was very cool. Tanya had more sense back then than, she thought like we think today. Tanya told her, as she tried to comfort her, it's not the end of the world. It's no big deal. They weren't the only ones who did it. But again, like I told you, it was a big deal back then. Virtue, morals, and values mattered a lot back then. So Lindsay is very upset. Later on, we see Matthew arrive home, and Claudia notices that he looks a little tattered and a little tired. She asked what happened, and he said nothing major. He is tired, but he decided he wanted to spend some time with his family. He asked about Lindsay. She says Lindsay's upstairs. She went to bed early saying she wasn't feeling good. Claudia got up to go fix him dinner, and he said, no, I already ate with the fellas. So he had already eaten with his co-workers, so he told her. And he actually got up to go and check on his daughter, who is laying there in that bed, still crying her little eyes out. But when she hears her door open, her dad coming in to check on her, she closes her eyes and plays like she sleeps. So he leaves out after kissing her on the forehead. Now, over at the Carrington's mansion, Blake is burning the midnight oil. Krystle comes in with a little coffee. He said, I ain't asked for that. He busy. He's short patience. She realizes it. So she just walks away. And she's walking down the hallway as Fallon is coming home, the little floozy that she is. She's a bit drunk, and she's always got something nasty and underhanded to say to Krystle. But she did bother to ask was her brother and her father was there, not asking even how she doing. Just nasty to the woman for no reason. Krystle is always left to feel like a stranger in her own home. So she goes outside for some fresh air for a little while. Drunk ass Fallon goes up to Stephen's room bothering him. She there being nosy, and he just finally tell her, look, that was the telegram was from my friend Ted. He wanted to know if I wanted to meet up because he's coming to two nearby cities, San Francisco and I think LA. And he wanted to know if I want to meet up with either one of those spots. Stephen wasn't sure if he wanted to meet up with us, Ted. She reminded him that if he was a bit younger, when he was a bit younger, he had all these girls that would flip flop and be all around him. And she wanted to know, how does that make you feel? How did that make you feel? He said, I thought they were pretty. So she tries to convince him that maybe he should try women. You never know who you are until you try exactly, both of them. You are in this gay relationship, but how do you know you really want to be in that gay relationship if you've never tried to date women or sleep with women? Steven ain't nowhere near interested in that. They came to the conclusion that if they had, according to her, if they had had a mother around for a long time, maybe both of them would not have a problem identifying who they are and what they want in life. She says she too has fears as well. But she wants Steven to basically forget about all of that. Forget that you in love with this man. Forget that you gay. It'll never be accepted in the world that we live in. So why are you even doing that? And if you ever want to have any semblance of a relationship with our Father and receive his love and approval, you might want to consider just getting you a woman and saying, forget how you feel as a person, and you don't have to live your life the way you want to live it. You need to live it the way our dad want to live it. Both of them got a problem with trying to live up to what they consider their father's expectations of them, and that's why they both so messed up in their own way. She says she is the scandal of Colorado, and he is. And before she could say anything else, he said Blake Carrington's mistake. She said, whatever they are both scared. Pressure is on them both to measure up to Blake Carrington. But Fallon did say that, remember when my mother first left? I didn't even sleep for the first 6 months. Every night I would come in here and I would hold your hand and wondering where she went and why and not knowing. She said, I would always tell you how much I loved you. And she gave him a kiss on the cheek and told him she loved him. And she left him to his own, left him to go to sleep. Now, the next day down at the rig, Stephen comes to see Matt. He heard that Matt was looking for him. Matt said he wanted to give him the rest of his pay that was due him. And he wanted to apologize because he now knows Ed was the one who set everything up and made him look guilty. He offered him his job back. At this point, Stephen said no. He said, because if I was not gay, y'all wouldn't have been so willing to believe that I had messed up on this job. If this was anybody else, would they have gotten the treatment that I got? Remember, they had hung him up and all that, and Matt got him down and cussed a couple of people out and fought with him, but he never addressed Stephen. So Stephen is like, why should I come back to this job? Even if I did love it, why would I come back to be further ridiculed for my personal life when my personal life has nothing to do with my ability to perform my job here on the rig efficiently? So it's a no-go. He told him no and walked off. That nasty little piece of Ed is a messy motherfucker. Ed done found out Claudia down there working at the bookstore, and he done went down there to the bookstore, and she spoke to her. She noticed the bruises on his face, and he says, oh, that husband of yours didn't tell you that we had a fight? I no longer work down there. She was like, oh, I didn't know that. He said, well, it's all right. I didn't like that job much. I don't like your husband much either. You don't like her husband, but you in her face. Then he goes on to tell her that, talk about her being locked up in a hotel. Well, that place is what he called it. He said, it's a lot that you probably don't know about your husband because you was locked up in that place. She said, no, 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 no. I was in a hospital. And what is it that you feel that I need to know about my husband? He gonna play around with it like he don't really want to tell her, but then end up telling her that your husband, when you was locked up, was having a whole affair with Blake Carrington's now wife, Krystle, and then got this woman all in her damn feelings, and told her that he felt like she at least needed to know since everybody else knew. Just messy. Messy he is. Now she done got all upset. He's still trying to make small talk with her. She told him, Ed, just go on about your business. Go on about your business. Now, Fallon then took her ass down there to the airport because she know that he's either going to be at the airport in San Francisco or the one in LA. And since she at the LA one, she done had him paged to come to the front desk of the place before he boards the airplane. And she there. She introduced herself and tells him that let me give you a lift to LA. Instead of you riding commercial, let me give you a ride to LA. Child, next thing we know, we see them on the Carrington private plane. Yes, she done interceded this man getting on his commercial flight to go where he need to go to offer him to ride on this private plane because she wants to talk to him about not messing with Steven and letting him go. Mm-hmm. She said that Steven will regret later on in life his decision to remain involved with this man. Plus, it's going to forever be a rift between father and son as a result of it. She said, despite what Steven may have told you, he wants his dad love and approval. Ted said money and his money. And she said, yeah, of course. She said, in the world that they come from, homosexuals are taken behind the bar and slaughtered. She explained that it's just the way it is where they come from. Ted says to her that I heard about Blake Carrington before, how he's strangling smaller corporations for a million. Damn, how much money does he need? However, he and Steven aren't even asking that much out of life, but yet it's such a big deal. Fallon said Ted should at least give Steven some more time to figure out what he really want to do. It ain't like you're going nowhere but to LA and you got a free ride. Ted asked her, have you ever loved somebody more than anything, including money and power? And she said no. He said she's probably lucky to have never experienced that. And then end up asking her to go out on a lobster dinner when they land, and she agreed. Later on that evening, Matt arrives home, and Claudia is sitting in bed reading a book. Now, y'all know how we are when we mad. We sitting there, we playing nice, but we ain't feeling it, right? He coming there talking about he done changed his mind. Because in a couple of episodes ago, she had asked him would he attend one of her counseling meetings with her doctor. And he said no. But now he's had a change of heart and he wants to attend a counseling meeting. But she said, no, that's all right. I changed my mind. And then she tells him, your ex-driller, your ex-worker, Ed came to see me at the bookstore. He said, oh, really? What did he want? And she said to talk about orchids. And then she told him, I'm finna go to sleep. I'm going to turn the light off. She didn't bother telling him what Ed had told her and that had her in her feelings in that moment. So in the final scene of the episode, we see Blake Carrington come home and he finds Krystle's birth control. And he wasn't aware she was taking it because remember they had just had a conversation about her having his child and hopefully if it's a boy, they're going to name it Blake. But she is on birth control. So when she makes it home, he done had a few drinks and he in his feelings. She immediately noticed something is wrong and begins to ask him what happened. Baby, he done pulled out her birth control and he opened it in that pad, throwing them on the floor. She loves me. She loves me not. He upset. because he thought that she wanted the same thing he wanted, a child. She promised him a child. She said she needed more time. He said, more time for what? I thought you knew me. He said everybody around him be lying to him. His son is in love with a man. His daughter is in love with sex and probably sleeping with half of the football team that he owns. And his wife, his beautiful wife, who told him she wanted to give him a child, is taking birth control behind his back. At that point, he began to get kind of rough with her. She said he looked ill, but no, he was drunk, girl. And when she tried to leave out the room, he began to handle her because he feels like, because he, Blake Harrington, and she's his wife, she must be submissive to him. We see him throw her onto the bed, start ripping her clothes off. At one point, he was even choking her, trying to restrain her. But one thing he never did stop was his pursuit to take her body. And he feels like he's in the right because he is the great Blake Carrington and she is his wife. Not equal, just his wife. Beholden to him. And that's where the episode ended. I hope you guys have enjoyed this retro review of Dynasty. This was season 1, episode 8, entitled Krystle's Lie. I hope you enjoyed this. If you see this, J Ray, this one was for you. The next episode, which would be episode 9 of season 1, will drop on Saturday. For those of you who enjoy these reviews, please leave me a comment down in the panel section of the video. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful remainder to your night. I got one more video I got to do tonight, and then I'm going to get me some sleep, child. So you guys have a wonderful night. And remember, in closing, as always, you do not have to be great to get started, but you must get started in order to be great. And it's the depth of your struggle that will determine the ultimate height of your success. Have a good remainder to your Wednesday night. I plan on doing the same, and I'll see you guys next time for another retro review. Good night.